Hello to all our community members. Welcome to the Bajirao IAS Academy. Today is 8th November and we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. So today we have to focus on three articles, okay? And the first article is related to the problem with the 70 hours a week work. So why this context? Well, you may know already that recently the Infosys co-founder Narayan Murthy they talked about that India workforce should have a more working time about 70 hours a week to bring production productivity enhancement. So here the debate started whether the increased work time leads to better productivity or it decreases the productivity. So I will be discussing on this context itself, okay? Because the article talks about negative aspect of productivity and the increased working hours, okay? So that is an important context that we are going to discuss. The second article is related to India-Bhutan relations, okay? And here we will be talking about the context like currently the Prime Minister of Bhutan, or you can say the King of Bhutan, okay? He visited India and there is a series of agreements going on, and this will cater the interest of India and Bhutan as well, because Bhutan, if you talk about, is a very peaceful country, but they do not have any major diplomatic relation with any of the bigger countries like United Nations Security Council permanent member or any other members except the neighboring countries like India, okay? So Bhutan is also trying to diversify the diplomatic relations. Okay, like recently he visited China as well for the border talks. Okay, so these developments is very important, specifically for India, and how India and Bhutan relation can grow, can enhance to boost trade, to boost investment. Okay, to cater the economy of the Bhutan and also the need of India. So we will be discussing all of that. And for boosting the trade, for boosting the investment, what is needed first? The connectivity. Okay, that's why in this series of agreements and the statements released, the agreement talked about the rail link connectivity, the airport connectivity. Okay, and India will be helping in that. So we will be exploring at that dimension. The third article is related to the Israel and Hamas conflict. However, we have discussed lots of articles, but there is another perspective in this article. Like when we talk about the history of Israel, once upon a time, Israel was itself a victim. Okay, they faced discrimination and even their existential threat as well. But now we are seeing that the Israel retaliation in Gaza, they are destroying the civilians of Gaza, okay, and that means the loss of lives, okay, to the common people in the name of eliminating Hamas, okay. So what we are seeing here, that Israel once upon a time was itself a victim. Now they are turning to a ruthless aggressor. They are like trying to capture the Gaza, that they are trying to control the Gaza, okay. So we will be elaborating in that and how the US role can help in putting siege fire to this disturbing issue. We all are going to understand in a detailed way. So let's start with our discussion, but we have a rapid fire session. And here we discuss the question of prelims on the daily basis. So you have to answer the question by pausing the video and please try to give the answer because it will make the discussion participatory. You should also engage, and via engagement you can remember the facts better, okay. So the question is, if a particular area is brought under the fifth schedule of the Constitution of India, which of the following statements best reflect the consequence of it? So what the question is saying about that, we have a schedules in our constitution, okay, and especially when we talk about fifth schedule, sixth schedule, you may remember that it talks about the tribal communities, the welfare of tribal communities, the powers the tribal communities enjoys, okay. So let's say if there is a state, okay, and in that state there is a region where tribal resides, okay, but they are not included into the fifth schedule, okay. So let's say decision has been taken by the government that this area should be included in the fifth schedule, okay. So what will be the possible consequence of it? Your option is this would prevent the transfer of land of the tribal people to non-tribal people. Option B, this would create a local self-governing body in that area. Option C, this would convert that area into a UT. Option D, the state having such area would be declared a special category state. Here you can easily eliminate two options, okay, because that two options is not related to this question, and you can easily know if you know about the schedule 5 and schedule 6, okay. What schedule 5 or the 6th schedule talks about? They talks about the tribal communities, okay, their recognition, all of that, and the benefits they would be getting, okay. So you can see that option C and D is not related to any tribal matters, okay. So you can easily eliminate. However, the union territory provision is dealt with different articles, okay. And tell me which article. And when we talk about the D option, you can also see that the state having such area would be declared a special category state. No, that is not true, because when we talk about a special category state, they have different conditions, like if they have the backwardness in economy or difficult geographical area and all of that, and there are further conditions, but we are not going into detail. Like for example, Andhra Pradesh, okay, they have a special category status, and for that they get money from the central government for the development, for the capital investment and all of that, okay. So this is also not related, so you can eliminate two options easily. And now we have the two options left, so here you have to choose the correct answer. We will be discussing the correct answer in the last session of the discussion, but you please answer the question, okay. It will help you to gain the confidence in solving MCQ, and prelims is becoming more dicey, okay, and the unpredictability is increasing. So to make sure the predictability in the answer, you have to attempt more and more questions, specifically the prelims previous year paper, analyze that, and on that topic try to find another question from textbook, test series, okay. And not only that, the options which has been given in the prelims paper, try to elaborate the options as well. For example, a question which we have already discussed in the past, they talked about 10th schedule, but in other options we have the ninth schedule, we have the fifth schedule, and all of the schedules were given, okay. So you should explore the other schedules as well, so that will help you to decode the questions that can come into the prelims paper. So this type of approach you should adopt, okay. So now we are shifting to the editorial discussion, and the first article is related to GS paper 2, okay. And that context I already provided to you, that recently the Infosys co-founder N.R. Narayan Murthy talked that youngsters in India must say that this is my country, I want to work 70 hours a week. Indirectly, you can say that they supported a long working hours for the Indian workforce to make the country competitive. So now the question raises that do long working hours gets converted into the competitive and productive and efficiency? So that is the question, and this has started the debate between productivity versus production and the working hours. So this article basically does not support the argument of the N.R. Narayan Murthy, and they try to give evidence and proofs to substantiate their point, okay. So we will be elaborating on that. But before that, what do you mean by productivity? You need to understand what do you mean by production. So production is the process via which any product gets made, okay. So that is the production, like in company, in manufacturing units, there is lots of production of the materials, the goods and services going on. But when we talk about productivity, it means efficiency. For example, in 1 hour, if a company is making same item 5 in number, but another company in the same hour making the 10 products in an hour, that means the productivity of the second company is double, okay, as compared to the first one. So that means it will boost the economic growth, it will boost the development, it will boost the income, okay. So that is the point, that is the role of productivity or the efficiency, okay. So that is the basic meaning of productivity. Now, what the context I have discussed, the argument given in this article basically goes against that. For example, the founder, co-founder Narayan Murthy talked about that extended working hours helped the advanced country such as Germany and Japan to succeed. Okay, one argument was given that, and also he placed the burden of increasing productivity on the shoulder workers, like the workers they need to increase the productivity, but that is not a true thing in totality. Why? Because productivity can be enhanced if and only when there is a environment of innovation, creativity. But let's say a worker does not understand or does not have an idea of computer technology, okay, does not have the idea of artificial intelligence, so you will be expecting that this worker will increase, will enhance their productiveness, so it will be not possible. And why that worker was not able to learn these things, learn these technological advancement, it was all because it was not accessible to them, okay, not accessible to them, or the company didn't provide a training to them, or the informal work does not have this type of facility, okay. So that is not the problem of the worker, actually the company or the technological advancement in the nation all plays a combined role, okay, to decide the workers productivity, okay. And also the third argument is like proposal violates the international labor standards along with the international labor organization decent work agenda. Now this important term international labor standards, we are going to explore that, okay. When we talk about this standard, there is a certain labor standards that talks about workers welfare, like controlling working hours, okay, and protecting the human rights, security, social security, all of that, there is a mention of these. So that means it will also violate the international labor standard, that is the third thing, okay. So when we talk about the international labor standards, we have already talked about, like the international labor organization, they basically supported in creation of international labor standards, and there is a set of guidelines, the provisions that talks about the workforce welfare in terms of the limited working hour, in terms of the exploitation prevention, okay, and all of that. So if India does not follows the international labor standard, let's say that we have enhanced the working hours from current level to 80 hours, let's say, so that means we are violating the international labor standards, okay. And if our Indian company want to invest in another nation, okay, they want to establish company or sub branch in other nation, and even if they are not following the international labor standard, that means the market accessibility will not be favorable for Indian company, specifically in the advanced country, because in the advanced country the international labor standards are getting followed, okay. And also this standards to be followed are needed to participate in the supply chain, we will be exploring in that dimension as well, okay. And it will affect the aspirations of Indian industry to expand their presence in the global markets, okay. And when we talk about another point, that what is the current context in the developed nation, so in the developed nation, does there is long working hour culture, okay, or there is less working hour culture. So the evidence and the data showcase that as the country advance, as the country progress, the number of working hours gets reduced, okay. Like we have a example that the developed country or the advanced economy led continuous decline in the working hours per worker during the past 150 years. We have example like in Germany, weekly working hours have reduced by 59% from 68 hours in 1870 to less than 28 hours in 2017. That means a worker in Germany only spent 28 hours per week for the work. That means about 60% decrease in the working hours as compared to 1870. Okay, that is a very important point. And when we talk about Japan, so in Japan as well, we have less than 35 hours per week work time in 2017. So what we are indicating here, we are indicating here that in advanced economy of the country, there is less working time as the country progress. Okay, so working hours tend to decrease when income increase and people has more leisure time, and in this leisure time people can work for their welfare, people can enhance their innovative and creative approach. Okay, and also they can be creative in nature. So the leisure time is needed for a worker to better develop themselves in terms of creativity and the innovation. But let's say in India, we have the work culture of working about 16 to 17 hours as well. So how a person can do welfare for themselves, can improve their creativity, can improve their productivity, because their majority of the time goes in the working. No training, no proper course or activities supported for the productivity enhancement. Okay, so these are the things. So when we talk about like impact of long working hours, so as per the International Labor Organization report that is actually working time and work life balance around the world, that talks about that the working hours has a serious impact on the physical, mental, as well as the economic health, because majority of the time you invest in the work. That means the emotions related to that work, the activities related to that work will surround into your mind, and with respect to that, it will also have an impact on the health, have an impact on the physical well-being. Okay, and if more and more time you have engaged in the workforce and the work is less creative, that means the economy will also suffer a burden. Why? Because more creative work brings more growth and development to the economy. Less creative work leads to the less contribution to the economy. Like when we talk about the construction sector workforce, okay, so they do about 16 to 17 hours of work, but despite that their contribution in the economy becomes very less. Okay, similar we can talk about the farmers, they do hard labor from day to night, but their contribution becomes very less. Okay, so these are the things. And also there is another impact, like if our demographic dividend comes into the workforce for the initial time and we are making them work for 70 to 80 hours. Okay, so that means they will lead to early burnout. Okay, they will face various challenge, and they will not able to adopt the situation, and that will lead to the early burnout. That will also impact the economy as well. Okay, and when we talk about productivity and innovation, so productivity and innovation goes parallel. Okay, if you are innovating in yourself, if you are bringing creativity to your work, okay, to your task, the productivity, the efficiency will increase. But when we talk about India's scenario, like in the India Innovation Index, that is also reflecting the innovation environment of India. Okay, and this report is produced by Niti Aayog. So what it has highlighted, that we are very much minimally doing expenditure in research and development. And remember, when we talk about research and development, this is a very important pillar to bring innovation in the work, to bring creativity in the work, to bring different types of work. Okay, but our investment as a percentage of GDP is only 0.65%. Okay, and not only that, when we work out this share, that means the private shares contribution to the research and development in case of India is only 41%, as the data reflects in 2020-21. And that means the government or the public sector is contributing much more in the research and development. However, the share is only 0.65%. But when we try to analyze this scenario with respect to the developed nation like the Japan, Korea, United States, so the reverse is true. There, the private sector share in R&D is more than 50%. Like for Japan and Korea, we have 79% private sector share in the research and development. And in case of US, we have the 75%. And even in case of China, we have 77%. And in case of India, we have talked about 41%. And even with respect to 2012-13, it was reduced. Like in 2012 and 13, it was 45%. Okay, so instead of increasing the share was decreased. And remember, when we talk about private sector, they bring innovation, efficiency, productivity. Okay, so that is also very important context where we are lacking. Okay, and when we talk about the importance of international labor standards, so if you want to become participatory in the global trade and try to invest in another country, okay, so there is a need that we need to follow the international labor standards. Okay, but do this do this long working hours provision will benefit India in ensuring the global supply chain participation? No, it will not, because the international labor standard talks about limited working hours. Okay, they talk about that the working hour should be limited to 8 hours, okay, per day. So that will be not a good thing. And slowly this standards is increasingly reflected in global trade rules. Okay, and even what we are making bilateral trade agreement, free trade agreement with another country. Okay, so there is a focus that we should follow the international labor standards. Okay, so that is the point. Like for example, in the FTA negotiations which is going with the European Union and the United Kingdom, both include the follow up of international labor standards. Okay, and not only that, this international labor standard is also central to the implementation of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. Now, what this framework talks about? This framework talks about promoting economic cooperation in the region led by the United States. And in this framework, India is also a part. Total 14 country grouping is that, and India is also a part. So this this framework also talks about the follow up of international labor standards. And if India is a part of that, that India means that India needs to follow this standard as well. Okay, and the agreement also talks about supply chain resilience. Okay, and in this way, there is a need to follow up the labor rights, human rights. Okay, so the Indian companies which want to be participatory in the global supply chain or wants that their richness should spread in another country, so there is a need that the international labor standards should be followed in India by the Indian companies. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about the examples with respect to the other developed countries or the organization, like they talk about respecting the labor's right, promoting human right, promoting labor's welfare, and all of that. For example, European Union member state, they brought a agreement that talks about supply chain due diligence. Okay, similarly, France has enacted the Corporate Duty Vigilance Law 2017 that wants to establish a plan of vigilance, and that will lead to identifying the risks and also the violation of the rights given to the workers or the laborers. Okay, so in these European countries or the Western countries, what we are seeing that the protection of the labor rights or the worker rights are increasing, which also includes the limited working hour. Okay, But in case of India, we are seeing the opposite of that. So if we go by the statement of the Infosys co-founder, that means it will lead to the ignorance of India and Indian companies to the global supply chain, to the global investment, to the global participation, and all of that. Okay, that is the core of the article. Okay, so hope you understood. And now we are shifting to the another article. The another article is related to India Bhutan relation. So when we talk about Bhutan, you may be hearing about Bhutan, that Bhutan is very peaceful nation. Okay, and although the size of Bhutan is very less in terms of area, but what is another important thing to understand, that Bhutan mainly remained a closed country. Closed country means their diplomatic relations with another country, except some of the neighboring countries of Bhutan, like India, China. Okay, except that the relations is very limited to another country. Like when we talk about UN Security Council permanent member, so there is no formal diplomatic relation with these country, including China. Okay, but now we are shifting, we are seeing that the stance may get shifted, because recently the Bhutanese king visited China for the resolving of the border talks. Okay, so the China insisted to establish diplomatic relations. Okay, and also they wanted that embassy should be established. Okay, so these are the important developments which is happening. And apart from that, the current context is like the Bhutanese king visited India. Okay, so there is a series of agreements that will be going on. And what is the aim of these agreements? First of all, they are trying to boost connectivity. Okay, so look at the map first when we talk about the Bhutan. So you can see here that Bhutan is very small country, but surrounded by China, surrounded by India. Okay, and you can also see some of other country like Nepal, like you can also see the Bhutan. Okay, so if Bhutan tries to establish a good relations with India, okay, and although India and Bhutan are good friends as well, so but they are trying to expand the relation. Okay, so what is the aim of Bhutan? First of all, bringing investments. Okay, creating employment. Okay, and like enhancing trade and all of that. So for that purpose, connectivity is very important. Okay, so for the connectivity, there is a ongoing proposal which was talked about in the present visit, like Kokrajha Gelefu rail link to be established, and that will connect Bhutan to Assam. So this is Bhutan, and this is the region of Gelefu. Okay, it will connect Bhutan and the nearby Indian state Assam. Okay, so what will happen? The trade and investment may get boost. Okay, along with another rail link is getting proposed that will connect the Bhutan and West Bengal. This is West Bengal. And apart from that, in 2020, Bhutan also made an agreement with Bangladesh, okay, to boost trade and all of that. So maybe in future, Bhutan is seeing that their connectivity with Bangladesh should also increase. Okay, so this indicates what? This indicates that the benefits that the trio nations can get. One is India, one is Bhutan, and Bangladesh. Okay, so you can look with the perspective of the regional area and the regional groupings. Okay, so that is a very important point. And also, when we talk about the Bhutan's economy, so they are mainly based on tourism and the hydro power projects. Okay, they sell electricity as well. But during the COVID-19, what we have seen, the tourism sector collapsed. Okay, and only the economy that relies on hydropower will not do much. Okay, and also there is a crisis in the economy in the sense that the people are leaving Bhutan because of the unemployment and unavailability of the work. Okay, so that's why Bhutan's necessity to bring innovation, to bring investment, to enhance trade is also a compulsion like scenario. Okay, and that's why new project proposed by the king to build a special economic zone at Bhutan's southern border here. Okay, Bhutan's southern border, that means here. Okay, southern border with Assam and an airport at Gelipu also. And what will happen? It will also ensure the development of Northeast, because if the connectivity gets stronger, so the development of the northeastern states like the Assam will also get boosted. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about issues in the Bhutan economy, we are talking about that like tourism issues because of the COVID-19. Okay, and what one thing India is doing in terms of increasing Bhutan's economy's strength is like India had energy exchange platform. Okay, and what this energy exchange platform do, like the Bhutanese and Nepali hydropower suppliers. Okay, so they bring this on the online platform, and one we have the Bangladesh, one we have the Sri Lanka. They need energy. Okay, so via this platform they can connect with the buyer and supplier, and this helps in ensuring the revenue to the Bhutan. Okay, because in this platform they try to sell the energy. Okay, and in return there is a revenue. Okay, so that will also drive intra-regional growth and revenue. But there is a issue that may prevail despite we have the series of agreements, and one important issue that remains always is the lack of efficient and time bound execution. So whether the agreements is happening or will occur, the success will depend on its execution. Okay, and for India, it is also a good thing that India should enhance its relation with Bhutan. Like when we talk about the neighboring country, like Pakistan, we have the end of the relation. And when we talk about Myanmar, so Myanmar is also facing sanctions. So the economic relations between these countries are not up to the higher mark. Okay, and that blocks the path of trade and connectivity to the east. Okay, and this also leads to halt of the development of the northeast, because northeast development, when we talk about, you can see from the map, if we have the better connectivity with the northeast and better relations with the countries associated with the northeast. Okay, so that will bring development. And when we talk about the northeast, they lacks in development. Okay, so it will help in the development of the northeast as well. Okay, so that is the point. And remember that at the global level, geopolitical conflicts and anti-globalization trend are also rising. That's why the countries, they are trying to make regional groupings, like when we talk about RCEP. Okay, regional economic comprehensive partnership. Okay, and this type of groupings or the regional groupings is not successful in South Asia, because we are although attached to a border, but when we talk about the attachment with respect to heart and with respect to the economic relation, we are not so much integrated. Okay, so that leads to the blockade of the economic growth or the development between the South Asian nation. Okay, so that is the point. And there is also concerning issue with respect to the border resolution that is ongoing between China and Bhutan. And China, you know that they are very like a strategically diplomatic player. Okay, so what China is proposing, that the Doklam, which is a disputed region between the China and Bhutan, although it is under the control of Bhutan, but what China is proposing, that they can do the swap agreement with respect to the Doklam. Okay, that means the Doklam should be given to China, and instead China will give other area which is in dispute. Okay, So that is the point, but this will affect the India, okay, that can threat India's security. So whether progress will be done and what progress will be done, only time will tell. But what we can conclude that cooperation between India and Bhutan will bring benefits to both the countries. Okay. So that is the end of this article, and we are shifting to the another article that will also be related to GS paper 2. And when we talk about this article, you know that about 1 month already spent after the attack of Hamas onto the Israel, and also retaliation of Israel to Gaza. Okay, and note down that in this 1 month, about 10,000 Gaza civilians were killed. And when we talk about Russia-Ukraine war, this war has this war has started much before, but there was not such serious killing. Okay, so what does this indicate? That ultimately, to fulfill the aspiration of Israel, Israel is like doing anything, okay, that can ensure their demand. Okay, so that is the point, and that's why the countries, the United Nations, all are talking to ceasefire in the name of humanitarian cause. Okay, because the civilians is getting damaged. We are seeing lots of video and the effects that we are seeing. Okay, and you know that when we talk about Gaza, 2.3 million people they lives in the Gaza. Okay, and currently you can say that it has become a graveyard for thousands of children. Okay, because children and women are getting affected much more. And in this situation, 89 UN aid workers were also killed. Okay, so not only the civilians but the workforce which are helping the population, they are also being killed. Okay, but despite all these scenario and developments, what we are seeing that the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is not calling for a ceasefire or calling for a humanitarian pause, okay, to prevent the civilian loss. Okay, so that indicate that once upon a time Israel, which was a victim, now it is itself becoming an aggression. And if the war goes on, if the war continues, that will lead to more isolation and disturbance in West Asia. Because when we talk about West Asia, you can understand that West Asia always remained a issue of conflict. Okay, so we have the many power politics in West Asia. Okay, like we have the Iranian proxies working in the countries like Jordan, Lebanon, or the Yemen. Okay, so this can lead to escalation of the war. Like we have seen that Yemen, and in the Yemen we have the Houthi, the rebellion group. Okay, they already launched the attacks against Israel. And when we talk about Israeli-Lebanese border remains tense with Hezbollah saying all options are open. That means what? The Lebanese and the organization associated with it, okay, so they may get participating in this war, and that will also cause the disturbances and the expansion of the conflict, escalation of conflict. Okay, so what can be done? So first of all, you need to understand that USA has the support of cooperation to Israel, and that's why the isolation is not like stopping. Okay, so what USA can do, they gives moral leadership. Okay, they preaches out moral leadership, but currently the approach that USA taken with respect to the Israel indicates that what they preach they does not follow. Okay, so that is an opportunity for the US to show the moral leadership. Okay, and it should tell Israel that it should stop to kill the Palestinian civilians in the name of right to defense itself. Okay, and the ultimate point that is needed is like Israel must be made to cease fire immediately. Okay, so that is the end of the article. Hope you understood. Now we are coming to the answers of the question, and when we talk about answer, the answer is option A. This would prevent the transfer of land of tribal people to non-tribal people. Okay, and when we talk about fifth schedule, the fifth schedule, basically in the constitution we have 12 schedule, first schedule, second schedule, up to 12 schedule. Okay, when we talk about fifth schedule, they give series of rights and benefits to the tribal population which is residing in the a state which is mentioned in the fifth schedule. And which are the state mentioned in the fifth schedule? You can see here like Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, and Telangana. Okay, and here tribal advisory committee in these area, okay, they perform administrative duties directly and do not have much autonomy. Okay, and these are the things. So you have understood the article and how you can eliminate the two options we have already told you, and the right answer is A. Hope you enjoyed this article. Thank you, friend. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Please do like, share, subscribe. Okay, we will meet again with the next lecture series. Thank you. Thank you very much.